What exactly is Huawei? The name Huawei may be translated as Splendid Act or China is able. Hua can mean splendid or China, and Wei can mean action or achievement. And Huawei is one of China's most important tech companies. Huawei was founded by Ren Zhengfei, a Chinese engineer and businessman, who during the 1960s was a member of the People's Liberation Army of China. Although not holding any military rank, was responsible for a number of technology achievements that were recognized at various levels in the field. After retiring from the army and becoming a civilian, he moved to Shenzhen and worked in the electronics business and eventually founded Huawei. By 2018, the Shenzhen-based Huawei became the world's second-largest seller of phones behind Samsung. Huawei is best known for making high-end phones with appealing designs and premium hardware features that rival devices from Samsung and Apple. Global consumers, especially those in China, may know the brand best for its consumer electronics, which also include laptops, tablets and TVs. Huawei's history is in providing telecommunications equipment, and sells some of the hardware that lets your phone connect to wireless networks. They also used to sell gear to US wireless carriers too, but that ended more than a decade ago. In 2012, US lawmakers began to work to prevent American wireless carriers from buying equipment from Huawei and ZTE, another Chinese company. The US government was concerned about Huawei's ties to the Chinese government, and worried that equipment from both companies could possibly be a national security threat if it was deployed across the United States. Another concern is Huawei's founder Ren Zhengfei's ties to the Chinese military, pointing that he was an engineer in China's People's Liberation Army before he left the service in 1983, and started Huawei 4 years later. Huawei has always denied its equipment is any more vulnerable to spying than that provided by other companies worldwide. As a result of these efforts, on February 2018 the directors of the CIA, FBI, NSA and several other intelligence agencies expressed their distrust of Apple rival Huawei and the Chinese telecom company ZTE.
These companies are dangerous to our national security and to your privacy. Huawei and ZTE are nothing more than extensions of the Chinese Communist Party. Huawei's CEO was an engineer for the People's Liberation Army. The company's livelihood consists largely of a steady stream of government contracts. And its greatest claim to fame is shamelessly stealing the secrets of American companies. That's why it's under investigation by the Department of Justice.
During the hearing, the intelligence chiefs commended American telecom companies for their measured resistance to the Chinese companies.
Will you please raise your hand if you would use products or services from Huawei or ZTE? None of you would. You obviously lead intelligence services, so that's something of a biased question. Raise your hand if you would recommend that private American citizens use Huawei or ZTE products or services. None of you again are raising your hand. Thank you for that.
Huawei has been trying to enter the US market as part of their expansion plans through partnerships with US mobile carriers. But after the House and Senate Intelligence Committees raised concerns over the partnership, AT&T abandoned its plans to launch a Huawei flagship smartphone in the US, and their partnership with Huawei was ultimately called off. US intelligence had been continuously raising their concerns that Huawei smartphones can have backdoors to help Chinese espionage, although no evidence has been presented yet. Huawei has denied all these allegations. In recent months, the relationship between China and the US has taken a beating over trade wars, influence in the Asia-Pacific region and other disputes. Several multinational companies have also been fined for violations by the US government. Many experts believe that these indictments are strongly rooted in the battle for tech supremacy, specifically the rollout of 5G technology. 5G technology is the next big leap in telecom as it can deliver speeds unheard of today. These networks are capable of streaming data 100 times faster than today's 4G network. Such speeds can power a wide range of applications such as driverless cars, machine-to-machine communication, artificial intelligence, blockchain and so much more. 5G technology also has the potential to change military warfare with pilotless flights and drones. It also brings huge economic benefits, as it has the potential to create millions of jobs, and forecasted to generate over $275 billion in investments and $500 billion in economic impact. Many industry insiders believe that this is precisely why the US wants to be ahead of China, but in reality, it is lagging behind. According to an audit report, China has been spending $24 billion more than the US since 2015 and has built 350,000 new sites compared to the 30,000 sites built by American telecom companies. China's 5-year economic plan also specifies spending $400 billion in 5G-related investment, and the Chinese government has forced its top 3 telecom companies to work together to bring 5G network to its residents. Because of this, Chinese companies are on track to start commercial-scale deployment of 5G services by 2020. Another report estimates that China will control 40% of the entire 5G market. The United States, on the other hand, is yet to auction bandwidth for 5G, and policymakers should take charge to jumpstart deployment. In the 5G Readiness Index developed by the Cellular Telecommunications Industry Association, China sits at the top and followed by South Korea. On December of 2018, Ren Zhengfei's daughter, who is also the chief financial officer of Huawei, was arrested in Canada, at the request of the United States government, for allegedly defrauding multiple financial institutions, in breach of US-imposed bans on dealing with Iran. January 24 of 2019, Huawei reveals the Balong 5000, a multi-mode chipset that supports 2G, 3G, 4G and 5G on a single chip, which claims to be the world's largest 5G modem. Following that, on the 28th of January 2019, the United States Department of Justice announced financial fraud charges against Meng Wanzhou.
I'm also announcing today, a grand jury in New York has returned an indictment alleging 13 additional crimes committed by Huawei, its CFO, its affiliate in Iran, and one of its subsidiaries here in the United States.
On March 7, 2019, Huawei fought back and filed a complaint in a federal court in Texas, challenging Section 889 of the National Defense Authorization Act, signed into law by U.S. President Donald Trump in August, which bars federal agencies and their contractors from procuring Huawei equipment and services. The lawsuit was filed in Plano, Texas, home to Huawei's U.S. headquarters. Although famous for being private, Ren Zhengfei has been appearing for interviews recently, and had been answering questions regarding the U.S. government's allegations on Huawei spying on behalf of the Chinese government.
They're not enough to say that Huawei has become what it is today by stealing from the US. Today, we have many things that the US doesn't. How can we steal what they don't have?
Many believe that if Huawei wins these battles and successfully enters the US market, Huawei will undoubtedly become one of the most influential, if not the most powerful company in the world.